everybody. Man, we're gonna be painting this, my old Millennium Falcon from '95, and knocking some super glue off the paint rack over here. I have all my paints. Oh, you can see the paints this time. They're just over here, as you can see a couple of caps over here. Yeah. I karate chopped my super glues. It was in the paint racks there. Millennium Falcon's sitting on a bottle of pigment, and we're gonna get painting. Talking about Star Wars versus Warhammer. As a fan of both things. Oh, I need to figure out something. Speaking of that won't be right now. That's fine. We're just gonna be throwing on more of the same, I think. Or maybe we will be doing yeah. Let's just make it. Let's do that. So, I like Warhammer and I like Star Wars. Been a fan of Star Wars much longer than I've been a fan of Warhammer, but only found out about Warhammer, you know. I played some Warhammer in middle school, but my exposure wasn't that good. My first true exposure to Warhammer that was positive was I heard a book 6 or 7 years ago. So I've been familiar with Star Wars in a deeper level for longer, and being a fan of the novels and the just the overall lore for a little bit longer. But yeah, you got to be honest about these things, man. And I've read, I play obviously a lot of Warhammer. I play Orcs and Death Guard, and I kind of understand the military methodologies for a lot of these things, and I don't understand the military methodologies for Star Wars. And I'll explain to you why I don't, because it's a difference in why it's a difference in the outcome. I'll just get into it. Warhammer's gonna win, and I'll explain why. Because first off, it's a thematic difference. Whereas Warhammer's central theme is conflict, much like Star Wars' central theme is conflict. The conflict in Star Wars is much more of a Luke Skywalker and a bunch of dudes in a spaceship running around, in a space station. It's in its original conception, it was a small scale, and ragtag group of rebels, basically nobodies. It turns out that Luke is the son of Darth Vader, but also at the same time, in the first film, Luke is just some kid from a moisture farm from some backwater. You gotta understand the thematic differences here. There's differences in the whole theming of the entire universes, and the way that all of the stories were executed from their conception is what I'm saying. This is all very important to the outcome, because they're both a sort of a fantasy approach to the whole thing, but the approach is affected by the overall methodology of the universe. You might say it's been getting a lot more grim lately, but yes, but that's not in the spirit of Star Wars. I would say that's not very Star Wars. These latest Star Wars films. And even if they had, say, Grand Admiral Thrawn at the disposal at the head of a fleet with I forget what's the name of that starship? The big one that crashes into the other one at the end of the first trilogy. Oh man, that's some. I love that shot when I was a kid. I watched it like a gazillion times. You gotta understand. This is a perfect way to explain it. The ships that are like that for Warhammer have Death Star capabilities. They can all the ships that are of the size of those Star Killer Imperial pizzas. I forget. I can't remember what they're. Star Destroyers. Those giant Star Destroyers. If they were that class for Warhammer, they all can blow up a bunch of planets multiple times. And like I said, this is a difference in the conception, the entire conception of the whole universe. It's not like Star Wars is a terrible universe. It's just that in the way that the stories are from the beginning designed, Warhammer's more overpowered in set-piece battles. And we could break it down a little bit further. Say, like I was saying, they get Grand Admiral Thrawn at the biggest fleet ever seen of even a coalition of Imperial and Rebels. You have to understand what, even the threats that people face here. Space Marines are 1,200-pound gorillas that can run faster than the speed of light and have microsecond reaction speed. They are each Superman. All of them. They're all Superman. So it's a bunch of regular people in big starships, maybe sort of genetically enhanced, fighting Superman in armor with exploding machine guns. And this is all, and they don't seem overpowered in the universe because Superman gets whacked all the time in Warhammer. He's not Sly Marbo. He gets greased all the time. Somebody that runs faster than human eye can perceive and lives thousands of years, they constantly get killed in the Warhammer universe. Because they're fighting threats like the Tyranids. The biggest threat in the Star Wars expanded universe was the Yuuzhan Vong. They're pretty scary. But they're like Tyranids light. They're like Tyranids light. Tyranids are terrifying. If you haven't heard about the Nids, I would recommend reading up on Tyranids. Myself. And also reading the Yuuzhan Vong series, because that's actually my favorite expanded novel series. Short of the Yuuzhan... Maybe short of the Grand Admiral Thrawn series. I like the Grand Admiral Thrawn series a lot, but I like the Yuuzhan Vong series way more. So... yeah. Let's break it down in troops, alright? What are the best troops that Star Wars has? Say Mandalorians. From my understanding, Mandalorians are the most, these are basic foot troops, an army. So Mandalorians field a foot troop army, and Mandalorians are Boba Fett, Jango Fett, they were Mandalorians, and some Mandalorian armor. So these are all a bunch of Boba and Jango, bunch of Jango Fetts running around, versus Superman in space armor with an exploding machine gun. Don't get me wrong, Jango Fett's awesome. I don't think Jango Fett can stop. The only thing they can't do is they can't quite shoot lasers from the Space Marines. Can't quite shoot lasers from their eyeballs and fly, but they can jump super far and spit acid. So we're not. The thing is, we're talking about humans fighting post-humans, and I mean post-humans. These Space Marines aren't humans anymore. They're far beyond what humans used to be. It's like what we are to, say, a very primitive form of human, but instead of, like, growing our brain alone, they got smarter and, stronger and faster, and, they live thousands of years. Just, there's a slight difference, man. You gotta, oh. Man. No homeboy's hitting me up. Well, what we gotta do, and we'll talk about, like, starships. Like, while Star Wars has some pretty awesome starships, I think maybe while they have larger starships, Warhammer has the edge in weaponry. I don't think they have even larger starships, even. Because I don't quite know how the biggest starship is, but I do know that in Warhammer they have, like, the most absurd starships. And the thing is that Star Wars was done in the 80s with a bit of restraint. Warhammer was done in the 80s as overkill. Warhammer was conceived as Star Wars on steroids from the start. So this is why it's gonna win every time. That's the thing. And we could get into something that's not humans fighting humans, with Space Marines fighting Jedi. And actually, let's do Jedi real quick. Jedi. This is the biggest part, I guess. Jedi versus Space Marines. You know, Space Marines have psychers too. They have mystical powers also. Well, they're not, I don't know, I don't think there's quite as many. You gotta understand that that the power levels are just as hard to gauge as they all range in these psycho levels, so we're not going to be gauging that. They have more, so, but again, the Jedi, while they have the powers of the Force and probably more Jedi than there are librarians, because librarians are actually pretty rare, but each librarian is insanely tough, and each high-ranking librarian would be like fighting Darth Vader. So while there would be less, I think the elite end would be range, if not higher, to the same end of the highest end of the Star Wars universe, and reaching more into the high end. They would all have, like, Mace Windu combat levels. All of them. Except for more. It's like Mace Windu, but Mace Windu combined with Superman combat levels, alright? This is where it's at. So, the standard weapon that most of the people use is a laser variant. That's what the Imperial Guard uses. It's a strength 3 weapon in the game. Space Marines are toughness 4. Meaning, my Death Guard, you can shoot my Death Guard all day. They'll absorb that fire like it's, you know, a snack, man. And these are enhanced Plague Marines, but that's kind of a point I get. The point, I guess, is that not all Marines, not all Space Marines are, you know, Bobby G and the boys, man. Some of them have the plague of Nurgle. And shooting these guys in the Star Wars universe would be like shooting a vehicle with a laser, with their handheld laser weaponry. So it would be almost ineffective. But that, like I was saying from the start, there's a complete difference in the concept from the beginning of the universes of their conception. Like, Star Wars is conceived as high fantasy in space, which is great. Warhammer is like 1984 in the year 40,000. Did I say year 4,000? In the year 40,000. It's like the government from 1984, you know, expanded into space, collapsed, and then the Emperor took over. And yeah. That's the break there, guys. And we're not even getting into orcs, which are fungus that grow from fighting. Like, certain races, you don't beat them in Warhammer by fighting them, because you lose by fighting them, like orcs. You might kill some of them, but if you get a good enough fight going for the orcs, more orcs are going to show up from around the universe to fight, because you know why? There's lots of orcs dying over here. That sounds like a fun party to other orcs. They're going to come in, and they're going to try and get a piece of that action. This Tyranids. Tyranids live to eat dead things that have died in battle. Also, this right here, this is my Chagrin Commander specialty coloration. I got it in a what's it called? A tournament that I didn't do very well in. Anyways, now I'm gonna let y'all go. Star Wars, great universe for fantasy. Warhammer, grimdark. From the conception of the universes, from the get, Warhammer is a bit more disposed to a head-on conflict with anything. And yeah. Warhammer victory, but I don't know why you were expecting anything else. I honestly don't. Have a nice day.